Hey guys, Twigs here. So we're going to be checking out a video by HexJuice. She is a great content creator, very kind individual, very funny individual. And if you guys can, check out the link in the description below. Hit that like button for HexJuice's video. Hit that subscribe button for her. And while you're at it, hit that like button for my video, hit that subscribe button for my channel. Helps us build a community over here, helps us build the channel. So if you can hit that like and subscribe button for me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I've been having some optimization issues with Wuthering Waves, which I will say, I said there was probably going to be some server issues and some issues with the game. That's just what reality is like. Subscribe. But I did want to show you how people are responding to this, because I personally am very happy because Crow went ahead and announced that they're going to be giving us 10 extra wishes today. I believe in about 5 minutes at the time of recording.
Yes. What she's talking about here, and this is something I do want to discuss because it is important, and it just shows that sometimes things just aren't perfect at launch. And even though, for the most part, at least from my personal experience with Wuthering Waves, I only saw like a few glitches. The game crashed on me one time, and that was just, I think, because I had it on a external hard drive. I don't know how my download went to an external hard drive when it should have went to the internal hard drive. But that was that. And then there was one interaction where I was trying to interact with in the menus, and it just, nothing would work. I couldn't do anything. So I restarted my game and it worked perfectly ever since then. But those were like just two things, and I think one of those things was just the file went to an external hard drive. But I think this is a case where the community is kind of split 50-50, or maybe I am in the minority. But yes, a lot of people were having issues with playing Wuthering Waves. And I think it was more so mobile players, because it turns out the game is not very optimized for mobile. And that's a big issue when the Chinese market is actually the opposite of the US market or global. Because the Chinese market loves gaming on mobile. Whereas like I said, the US, I'll speak US particularly, is more so PC or console. But to my point, the game played awful on mobile, and that's a problem specifically and heavily in the Chinese market. And so they basically, Wuthering Waves and Kuro Games basically said, they put out this post saying, hey, we're going to work on this. We're going to commit to making this better for you guys, and we're going to be putting out patches nonstop. And as a make good, here's literally a tin pole going straight to your mail. Have fun, which is great. It's showing that they care about the players. They want to make good with them. And also they want to jump on these problems when they happen. Great stuff.
To compensate for the issues that people are having, which I think is very, very nice and very generous. It's obvious that they're listening because the game came out less than 12 hours ago, or less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah,
and they're already listening to problems from players. There's also already been a hotfix which fixed most of my optimization, like most of my ping issues were fixed just by that hotfix alone. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, it's so nice. They're also giving this compensation to people who reach Union Level 2 by July. To me, very generous. Shows that they care. I said, though I haven't had any optimization issues, I'm very glad to know y'all are listening to the community and care. And I said Genshin could never, because realistically...
She just, all right, even though Hex, I'll stand by what I said. Hex is a very nice person, but she's kind of like myself in Tectone. You got to throw in that dig just to kind of like fuck with people, just to put some emphasis on the fact that there is another game out there that more than likely would just close their ears and sing la la la.
Realistically, the reality of this situation is that Genshin also launched with issues. People were falling through the map. I remember there was a ton of issues when Genshin launched. Most games, when they launch, especially nowadays, have optimization issues, because trying to develop a game to work perfectly on so many types of software, especially games where they're also going to be on mobile, is
Yeah.
impossible, even with beta tests. But yeah, there were constant problems. And so I was trying to praise my company. I'm happy with it. Instantly, within a minute, somebody says, Genshin could never because Hoyo didn't launch games this bad.
All right. I'll be fair. The same thing goes for Genshin and Star Rail for me. I did not really see that many issues when I'm even putting my mind back in the day of Genshin Impact's launch. I didn't see that many issues, but the point is that even though and the same thing goes for Wuthering Waves, I only noticed like 2 issues and that was it. Even though I myself never saw any issues, if somebody's not playing on a device, we'll keep it generalized. Playing on a device that is up to like close, if not at the peak performance, they are more than likely going to see issues because the game's not gonna play well on that hardware.
They literally could never because they never had to. I would say personally that Genshin still has optimization issues. I cannot run on my PC Genshin Impact on high quality settings and be able to stream it. I would not be able to stream it.
Hex, what kind of PC are you playing on? I want to know. I'm not trying to brag either. I just want to know. But my issue, I think Genshin is in a decent spot when it comes to its performance. I think Genshin's only issue is just gameplay in general, and devs not giving a shit.
I still have optimization issues in Genshin where I'm currently running Kuro on max settings visually and perfectly fine on stream, not really having any issues. But
to be fair, if we're going to talk about graphic comparison, I'll give Genshin the credit it deserves. Genshin, when it comes to graphics and visualization, is astounding. But here's the reason why. Now, granted, they did an update, I think, in this last update, where they reduced the radius of the loading to where, like, if you're standing somewhere in, like, Sumeru, it will not load anything in Inazuma. That way, it's less pressure and strain on your GPU. Therefore, less work your GPU has to do. So, Genshin did do that. They lowered and reduced the radius of what loads. But to get to my point, Genshin, because it puts so much work in rendering and developing its graphics and the quality of everything around you, that's a lot of work on your hardware. Wuthering Waves, even though I do think Wuthering Waves has a pretty and beautiful map, it's not very strenuous on your GPU and the rest of your hardware.
Even then, Genshin is like massively unoptimized because of the amount of space that it takes up on your PC. There's no reason it should be, 80 gigabytes or something like that? There's no reason it should be that big. And there's already so much fighting over this on Twitter. And somebody said 1.0 of Genshin 100% had issues that they had to fix and or compensate for. They weren't necessarily the exact same issues as Wuwa, and I can agree on that front. But if you're implying Genshin never had to do any heavy bug fixes at launch, that's just wrong. And somebody said, can you name any? Didn't have as many technical issues or translation issues as this game. English dub was top tier too. The English dub at the beginning of Genshin Impact, I highly recommend y'all go listen to it again. Was it as bad as Kuro? I'll say honestly, personally, no. The English dub is not very good for Wuthering Waves right now. However...
Oh, man. Back in the day, Genshin struggled with... they did struggle with translation. And there was a lot of times the dialogue did not match up with what the text was on the screen. Sometimes the text wasn't even there. Or sometimes the text would be there and the dialogue would not be there. And so I remember that back in the day with Genshin. But the voice acting, it wasn't, and this goes for the same thing as Wuthering Waves. Back in the day with Genshin, the dub was fine. I thought the dub was okay. But the problem is that the dialogue wasn't written very well. And that goes to the problem with Mondstadt's story. Mondstadt's story was so cookie cutter that it wasn't really that interesting. What kept people playing was the gameplay and just how beautiful the world was and how wondrous it was. Leeway, it was a little better, but it was still, I would say Leeway was 10 times better than Mondstadt's story, but it still had its issues with translation, and like I said, the dialogue sometimes not popping up, whether it be voice dialogue or just text dialogue. Wuthering Waves, it has some of the similar issues, like the text would be there, but the dialogue would not be, like voice dialogue. So same issues I see, but this is what I've noticed is the issue with when it comes to the acting, so to speak. There's one or two problems, if not a combination of the both. Either the director who is telling these voice actors how to go about portraying these characters through audio, voice, is not giving them really good direction. Yang Yang is, in my opinion, a big factor in this. I feel like Yang Yang in some lines needs to like either add more emphasis or more urgency in her tone. And in a lot of cases, Yang Yang just seems so monotone. That comes off as strange. No one just speaks in a tone like this and never raises or lowers their voice. They never go in either direction at any point. I could be screaming and I would not change my tone. That is the problem I noticed with Yang Yang. And I want to have the confidence in her voice actors, because she seemed like a nice lady in that live stream, that she would know to be able to change her tone when the lines in her script call for it. I'm thinking it's the director that's the problem when it comes to Wuthering Waves' dialogue.
The English dub for Genshin was not top tier. It was just better than not good. Okay? But as far as technical and translation issues, Genshin has always had those. And continues to, and had them much more at launch. For Genshin, most of the issues were miscellaneous. There are a few technical issues for mobile players, a couple translation issues, etc. So there were issues. The only huge issue with Genshin at launch was big issues relating to accounts and account information, which seems pretty important. And then Genshin didn't have optimization issues. The amount of copium in these comments are actually crazy. Genshin didn't have optimization issues. Genshin still to this day, in the year of our Lord 2024, has optimization issues. On what planet? There were many issues, many issues with Genshin at launch. But again, what game has released in the last 2 years that is a server held game, right?
Yeah, and this goes for a lot of games. I'm not just talking about specifically gacha games. A lot of games, especially multiplayer live service games, when they create a new expansion or big update, will have server issues. The way games work, and this has been going on, and this is coming from somebody who has been a gamer since they were 5 years old. I have seen the launch of a lot of games. I've seen the transition from your back in the day model of making sure the game is perfect at launch to transitioning to make the game good enough for launch and we'll fix it with updates later. I saw that. I was there for it. I witnessed it. That gets to my point with that little funny bit. That's the model now. The model is make the game good enough for launch. The better, cool. If you can make it pretty stable, that's great. But even the most stable games at launch still have issues and will have updates coming out for them sometime later. That's the model now. And Wuthering Waves is going to follow that. And you can look at my last few videos. I believed that the servers were going to be pretty good, and I think for the most part the servers held up pretty well. But the game, of course, I 100% believed the game was going to have at least some buggy issues, and we're seeing them get fixed. Same thing for Genshin. Even though I agree, I didn't see too many optimization issues. I'm sure they were there. It's just that what I was playing on was able to hold up, and I was able to play the game without noticing too many issues.
That isn't just something that you download and play on your PC. That's like a live update game that is released with no issues or without some amount of glitchiness and bugginess. Basically, every single one. It's extremely common because there are so many kinds of hardware to optimize for. It's not real. That's
true.
not real, this concept.
And I'll go back to my experience as a boomer. Back in the day, man, I sound old. Back in the day, developers were usually just making their game for either one or two consoles. If it was Nintendo, most of the time the game was just being made for whatever Nintendo console was out at that time. And same thing for PlayStation, same thing for Xbox. But even then, when there was just three, I'll go further back in the day, two systems, Nintendo and Sony's, the most the developer would have to spec for is two consoles. And then PC came into the mix, Xbox came into the mix, and that's when it slowly transitioned to that model of make the game good at launch, and then we'll worry about updates later. Because, as HexJuice is saying, and this again gets to my point, the more consoles and platforms there are to spec for, the more you had to work around the issues that come around that certain piece of hardware. And nowadays, you have, and a lot of times, but we'll just throw it in there for the sake of the argument, Nintendo with its Switch. You have PC. You have the Xbox console. You have the PlayStation console. You have mobile. And we'll just stick to these five. That's 5 different platforms you have to spec for, not counting the software that comes with running things on PC with Epic Games, Steam, just straight up Windows. There are so many things that a developer has to work around nowadays, and that's why a lot of games today, you have to have these updates after launch.
That any game releases without issues. And this is why people were saying I was doom posting when I said we should lower our expectations for the game, because if we overhype it and expect perfection, this is exactly what's going to happen. And people said I was doom posting for that. Every game has launch issues. And honestly, I would say this game has less launch issues, at least from myself and most of the people that I've talked to, like personally, has significantly lower issues on launch than most games that I've played recently. You guys remember Diablo? Jesus Christ, that one was so bad. Can't this game do anything without Genshin being mentioned? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Because I literally can't even stream without people coming in and bitching about Genshin. It's
No, and that goes back to what I said earlier in this video. And I've said multiple times in previous videos. Wuthering Waves is, and it was designed this way, to be a direct competitor to Genshin Impact. No one is going to be able to have a conversation about Wuthering Waves, for the most part, without Genshin Impact's name being in that sentence too. It's going to happen.
Constant. Everybody is doing it. It's not just us being Genshin could never. Motherfuckers are coming into streams and pouring out through Twitter to say, oh, Kuro Games is bad, Wuthering Waves is bad. Absolutely, yes, there needs to be a community war. It's going to happen regardless. And the reality is that Genshin is way less on top of doing hot fixes and stuff for optimization issues like this, and absolutely would not be so quick to compensate for those issues. That's actually insane. There's so many people trying to just dogpile on Wuthering Waves not being absolutely pristine and perfect on launch. It is kind of mystifying, to be honest with you, because I feel like the game is really, really good. They're looking for any reason to call it a failure? Absolutely. Genshin is
All right, and to those to those Genshin players that are shitting on Wuthering Waves for these technical issues, these are just small issues. Yes, they can be annoying issues, but the fact of the matter is, and this is what a lot of people are praising Kuro Games and Wuthering Waves for, is the fact that they are addressing it, they're speaking out about it, they're establishing communication, and they're also compensating for it. Don't get me wrong, Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse did similar things back when they were dealing with their issues, and they compensated the players for it. Granted, their compensation doesn't even compare to Kuro Games and Wuthering Waves. Just 300 to 600 primo gens versus a whole ass 10 pull. But I'm not going to discredit Hoyoverse for doing the same thing. The only problem is that Kuro Games and Wuthering Waves have been very, very transparent and have established and sustained their communication, whereas Hoyoverse and the Genshin Impact team, they put the most minimum effort into trying to be transparent and communicate. And when I say minimum effort, I mean the most communication we see from Hoyoverse and Genshin Impact is just those little blog posts that they occasionally put out. That's it.
He's dead. Genshin could never fuck up the launch day. Oh, I'm so glad people have screenshots of this shit. I remember this. Yeah, this is what we call a perfect launch day.
And I'll be fair. Through my experience, I didn't get to see any of this. It might have just been because of the hardware I was playing on.
For sure. Keep reaching, little pup. These things absolutely happened. My thing is it's not even so much like a Kuro v Genshin thing. For me, my problem is like they're using it as ammo. I told you guys that the second there was anything imperfect about Wuwa, they were going to point at it and go, Genshin would never do this to us. Gluck, gluck. Huyo's so perfect. Gluck, gluck. Kuro's so dog shit. They're just the worst. It's never going to be real competition. Gluck, 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 gluck. I told y'all. I made a whole video saying that this shit was going to happen and to not fall into this trap. This is a good game.
I believe
Are there issues? Absolutely. And I will be making a video to discuss that more. But my God, is the like Huyo cuckery so intense. Most people are just happy that it's a good game. But I guess the point of this is like the Huyo cucks are shitting their pants and throwing up and pissing everywhere, trying to find the way that this is not a problem for their game. It also proves so much that when people complain about issues and make clear their criticisms, things change if the company gives a shit. If the company cares, things will change. Yeah. And so it so proves everything people have been saying for years regarding Genshin and Hoyoverse, because the reality is like, absolutely, they could try their best to fix things, and they could compensate you when things don't work, and they could do a million other things, but they don't. But Kuro is obviously caring. I'm amazed.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been alluding to this whole time, is, like I said, Kuro Games and Wuthering Waves keep a line of communication established, and they try to be transparent. And to HexJuice's point, it's because we see through their communication their love for the game. Go back to the first beta test of Wuthering Waves, where they took, Kuro Games that is, took all the criticism, the constructive criticism that they got, and they used it and worked on Wuthering Waves for a little over a year. They even went as far as redoing the whole story of the game. And what happened when the second beta test occurred? Everyone was just singing praises because they took a lot of the changes. We saw all the changes and they approved on the game. And like I said about Hoyoverse and the Genshin Impact team, we rarely ever get communication from them, and it's only usually through their blog post. And even then, their blog post comes off as tone deaf. Let's take, for instance, we've been bitching about artifact loadouts for a long ass time. What did they do? They just gave us artifact recommendations, and they just put in a button where it just slots what they believe is the recommendation without even barely looking at substats. But that's the difference here. Genshin Impact's team just comes off as tone deaf because they have clearly shown us they don't care about constructive criticism. They only care about what they want.
That can speak that well with all that Hoyo in their mouth. Yeah, it's kind of shocking. How do you speak with so much Hoyo dick inside your throat? It's wild.
That was funny.
But there was no way this game was going to launch perfectly because basically no game launches perfectly. Even single-player story games like FNAF, Elden Ring didn't launch perfectly. Elden Ring's known to be like one of the best games ever. I think Elden Ring was Game of the year it came out. But it's also a fucking masterpiece. Elden Ring was full of bugginess. And is still known and understood to be an incredibly well-made, perfected game. They just had to fix the issues. No.
I'll even go further back than that. Well, I'll go back to a legendary game that everyone has played and talked about for the most part. I won't say everyone has played because there would probably be the odd few out there. Skyrim, Elder Scrolls V. Everyone called that game fantastic, amazing, and great. And I second that because I played that game, I think, 3 times. It is an amazing game. I love Skyrim. Was Skyrim buggy as hell? And even with the updates that Bethesda did on Skyrim, did that fix all the bugs? No, it did not. But people still called it a masterpiece. That is an example of a great single-player story game that was buggy as hell.
No game comes out perfectly optimized anymore. That's just not a thing. There's too many systems. There's too many parts. There's too many combinations and variations. And, like, it's just so crazy how hard the Hoyo cucks are, like, scrambling, like, no, the game's shit! I swear, no, really! I don't want my illusion bursted! I don't want to be aware of the fact that the game is dog shit! And no, it's bad! It's still bad! It's literally just a Genshin code! It really is! When the reality is that I think a lot of people playing, and you guys can let me know if you agree on this in the YouTube comments and in Twitch chat, you guys can let me know if you agree, the more I play this game, the less I feel the similarities to Genshin. The only similarity ultimately is the genre of being an RPG in an open world. Otherwise, the similarities to Genshin are base level at most.
I think I can agree to that. I think I can. Yes, base level stuff. Fantasy world. A game where you collect characters. A lot of them are waifus, other than the occasional lolly character. Fantasy RPG-esque story. Okay. But yeah, that's all base level stuff. I think I can agree to that.
But people are so determined to discover that this game is shit. So determined. It is so hilarious to me when this game is objectively fucking really good. It is absolutely just blowing my mind, the level to which people are scrambling to continue to believe that Genshin Impact is a good game, especially compared to this. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. There are obviously issues with the game. I'm going to be making a video outlining that after I get to level 10. I am currently at level 8. I just got level 8, so I'm working on it. I'm doing some story right now. But let me know what you guys think. Are you having optimization issues? And are you having them on mobile or PC? And like, how good of a phone do you have? How good of a PC do you have? Because I'm really, really curious about how that's working because it seems very like spotty. Not everyone across the board is having issues. I am currently streaming daily at 10 a.m. PST, by the way, on twitch.tv/hex_juice. We are having a lovely time learning about this game together. I'm sort of going through the story pretty slowly because I'd rather hang out and explore and let people go through the story and not have to get spoiled. So come hang out with us over here. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye!
But yes, definitely check out the description below. I will have a link to HexJuice's video. Definitely hit that like and subscribe button for her. But I wanted to talk about something just to drive something home. The other day, when Wuthering Waves was just about to launch, May 21st, just a few days ago, like I said, right before Wuthering Waves launched, this is when Genshin Impact put out their little developer discussion where one of these, like I said, rare moments, these rare transparent moments when Genshin decides to talk to the player base, the community. In this developer discussion, they optimized their artifact system, which is just them optimizing how it recommends the artifacts to you. Don't let them lie to you. It's not an actual loadout system. It's just a automatic recommendation system. And then they increased the resin cap from 160 to 200 without changing the refresh time on the resin system. So what does that mean? You get a bigger bowl for your resin that still takes 8 minutes for you to get one resin. This just shows that based on the timing and the fact that we know the dev team for Genshin is tone deaf, this just shows that they are very concerned about Wuthering Waves. Look, they even announced the special program occurring later today for version 4.7. They even announced that they're going to have a little short coming out with Lumine and Ether I'm assuming about Lumine and Ether. Whenever it is. They didn't say when it's going to drop. But they are announcing all this stuff literally just a day before Wuthering Waves released. They try to keep interest in Genshin Impact when at this moment, interest in Genshin Impact is very low. The last couple updates, especially 4.4, was dry. This last one with Arlecchino was the only one that had at least some remote interest just because everyone was hyped for Arlecchino. I'll be real with you. My interest in 4.7 outside of me testing out their new endgame, and if the Dainsleep quest is going to launch, I'll probably play the Dainsleep quest. That's it. I will probably do those two things, and then I'm jumping right out of Genshin Impact. Because I have no interest in Sejuani. I have no interest in Chlorinde. No disrespect to Chlorinde, but I just don't really kind of care for her character. And I have no interest at all in Sethos. So, yes. Genshin Impact is very concerned about Wuthering Waves. That's why they're doing everything they're doing right now. And I want them to stay interested in what Wuthering Waves is doing. I want them to be concerned about what Wuthering Waves is doing because I want a fire lit under Genshin Impact team's ass. Competition is a win for the consumer, the player, the community. Genshin Impact may hate competition because it allowed them to stay relaxed in their chairs and put in the most minimum of effort in their game. But we win. We win when a fire is lit under Genshin Impact's ass. Let's just hope that they do better than this. Because this just comes off as them being desperate when they should be trying harder. So with that being said, again, check out the description below. Check out HexJuice's video. Check out her channel. She's a cool person. Definitely hit that like and subscribe button for her. And while you're at it, hit that like button for my video. Helps get the video out there. And while you're at it, also hit that subscribe button. Helps us grow a community over here. Helps us grow the channel. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys later.